Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, and welcome to this week's segment of Live Without Limits. Today's show is titled 6 Ways to Stay Motivated When No One Else Is. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence, said Helen Keller. Incentive, enthusiasm, drive, ambition, initiative, determination, enterprise. All of these are words used to describe motivation. But what exactly is motivation, and why do we sometimes have motivation in abundance and other times can barely make it through a task? Motivation is something that comes from within you. You have to motivate yourself. So when it's something that you truly love to do or want to do or know how to do, you will be motivated. And if it's something that you're not that thrilled about, then somewhere along the line you lose that motivation. And it's also a goal that you set for yourself, that you truly believe in who you are. While we all wish our motivational levers would be at 100% all the time, motivation ebbs and flows. Sources of motivation may come from family, from friends, and thus eventually can be so. Sources of motivation may become familiar, but they also may wane along the way and eventually become less effective. As an example, when you take a new project, you are filled with motivation. But as the project becomes more of a daily grind, the motivation can be harder and harder to find. When you work at a job that you don't truly love, you may be excited about a new project, but then as it becomes mundane, as you realize it's not something that you really enjoy doing, then you lose that motivation. So what is motivation? There are 3 major components to motivation: activation, persistence, and intensity. Activation is the decision to imitate a behavior. You decide to enroll in a morning yoga class. Persistence persistence is what helps you continue to make an effort toward the ultimate goal, even when obstacles get in the way. Using the yoga class example, persistence is what allows you to make it to class each morning, despite the fact that you really want to sleep in. Finally, intensity is the level of concentration and energy that you put into pursuing your goal. Those who have intensity will go out of their way to get everything possible out of their original goal to prevent your motivation from crashing and burning. However, you will want to increase your effectiveness when your motivation levels are high and work at reducing the frequency and duration of those periods when your motivation is low. And let's talk about another thing about motivation that a lot of people don't always think about. And in my case, because I have a disability, I realized many, many, many years ago, in fact, over 50 years ago, when I went in for surgery, once I had reached my full height, that they had to literally cut the tendon in my foot to give me a little bit more ability to walk better, or to release the tendon in my arm so I had better range of motion. At the time, exercise was moving blocks from one place to another. Now, in my case, because the damage is to the brain is not sending the right messages to those limbs to move or have the control of the use. So what happens is that it can easily contract if it's not stretched and worked on. And in the 80s, you started seeing health clubs grow, where they had the machines and the weights that you can take the amount of weight, and it's not a free weight, because free weights I cannot hold, but by working certain machines with certain amount of weights on that can pull the tendons or stretch it or strengthen it, then that has improved my ability to walk better or to stand straighter. And it also allowed me to not have to wear the braces that I wore as a child for at least 50 years, only because I'm getting older, my mobility and my drop foot means that I'm tending to fall more, so I have to compensate to control those limbs so that I don't fall. But the exercise has been very important. And one thing was that at the time I was wearing braces on my teeth to realign them and close the occlusion, because when they were in the proper position, they did not close on one side. And I was getting chiropractic care because they were doing a study to see how chiropractic care helped improve the skeletal on cerebral palsy, and I was exercising on a regular basis. And I found that for a whole year, I managed not to fall. And that was an achievement, because in my case, I've fallen enough that I've lost the ball that sits over the kneecap. I damaged the nerves in my mouth and have had to have extensive dental work. So, and what motivates me is the ability to have better health. But what activates it and what makes it persistent and the intensity is knowing the benefits that I get from it. And it's made me, and one thing that I find is that once your body gets used to a certain type of exercise, if you don't do it for a while, your body misses it. So it's a matter of understanding how, when you motivate yourself to live a better or healthier lifestyle, how that can benefit you in the long run. So, more than half of all American workers feel disengaged from their job, meaning they are not productive and have little enthusiasm or care for their work. A Gallup study found disengaged employees cost companies $300 billion in lost productivity every year. Are you passionate about your job, According to one study, passionate workers exhibit a long-term commitment to making a significant impact, a disposition which actively seeks out new challenges, a personality which seeks to build relationships built on trust with coworkers. So how many American workers actually perform their job with passion? One study seeking the answer to that question found that only 13% of employees possess all three of the above attributes of passionate worker. 23% considered themselves content, but did not possess all three attributes of a passionate worker. Finally, a disheartening 64% of respondents are considered half-hearted and disengaged from their work. And here's something else to think about, that when you work for a corporation, that if you look back on the early part of the 20th century when corporations were just growing and people moved into management, they were still passionate about the company they worked with, and they were loyal to those companies. But over the years and let's backtrack, but also not only was the employee loyal to the corporation, but the corporation was loyal to the employee. But during the late 90s, early 2000s, all of that changed because especially in the late 90s when corporations were merging and they had 2 to 3 people doing the same job that they didn't need, and they started offering buyout packages, that was a time when you started seeing a big change, and that was also the era when that was known as the Y2K era, when we were changing over from the 20th century to the 21st century, and people just didn't know whether computers would crash because the dates would change. From literally the 1900s to the 2000s, and would they be able to sustain that? And you found a lot of people making a lot of money during that time just taking advantage of people's fear that they would lose all the data on their computers. But even though that particular .com era crashed in the long run, it led to where we are today with information, with the digital age. It's led to so many changes that we know. More jaw-dropping motivation statistics. A whopping 76% of American workers are dissatisfied with the level of recognition they receive for doing a good job at work. 77% said they would work harder if their efforts were better recognized. Incentives for motivation are not necessarily all about money. 27% of employees said more opportunities at work would increase their motivation, while 20% said career development opportunities would increase their motivation, and 20% said that flexible work options would boost their motivation. What we are seeing now is that not only what boosts their motivation, but the fact that more and more people are working from home and hooking into the mainframe of the computers for the companies that they work for, because companies have found that it's cheaper for them to hire someone and give them the computer give them with the software installed and a phone, and let them set it up. And then all they have to do is, because computers can take the calls and reroute them into different people, that when your phone rings, you will pick up the phone, and you can be living in a totally different city, in a totally different country. Incentives for motivation are not necessarily all about money. 27% of employees said more opportunities at work would increase their motivation, while 20% said career development opportunities would increase their motivation, and 20% said flexible work options would boost their motivation. Monetary incentives often fail because they lack the trophy value. The employees feel comfortable discussing with others, plus cash awards are often forgotten as they are simply spent on everyday bills. When asked what would motivate them the most, 32% of employees said boosting their morale, 27% said praise and recognition, and only 18% said monetary rewards. So as you see, we need to look at how to either motivate ourselves or motivate the people that we work with. And how are you going to take this opportunity? If you are a manager in a company, you need to learn to be a leader and not a boss, because a boss does not know how to motivate his people, but he expects a certain amount of work from them because they expect productivity. So as a leader, you understand, and I think morale means that if I see a leader willing to do the work that he's giving to me, then that boosts my morale, because that's telling me that I need to step up and do just as good as my boss is doing or my leader is doing. And you know, when you look at the military, those, when they get it to become sergeants and they learn how to lead, how to motivate other people to want to work. The 6 primary ways to stay motivated. So how do you stay motivated, particularly when others are in your workplace or at home just aren't? Start with positivity. Research has found that a person's level of happiness increases productivity and motivation, and that to procrastinate the most, we are in a bad mood. So, and you're seeing this more and more, that as we change where we work, as we become more and more entrepreneurs, because what is happening is there are many companies out there that literally sell online. And how they work it is that they will have people who take calls and fill the orders from one location while the warehouse is in a totally different location. Set goals. Setting goals, or setting a series of smaller, manageable goals, makes getting to the big goal much easier. It is also easier to keep yourself motivated from one small goal to the next, rather than taking on one big goal. Often it has been said, instead of looking at the end goal and taking it step by step by step, break it down into smaller activities that you do daily, that you can complete each day. And then eventually, before you know it, you've already gotten halfway to your goal, and then before you know it, you're at the end of the road, at your goal. But if you constantly look at the goal that's a year away and it looks so daunting, then you develop fears and you're afraid to even get started. But if you look at it and break it down into daily goals and you achieve each daily goal, then you have experienced success. Focus on small victories. Rewards are responsible for as much as 75% of why we do the things we do. Recognize the significance of your work and speak up when you are feeling underappreciated. Peer pressure can actually be a good thing. Research has shown that peer pressure helps children more than hurts them. When you surround yourself with adults who have work traits you aspire to, it becomes much easier to remain motivated. Stay healthy. This one may surprise you, but sometimes the best source of motivation comes from outside the office. Doing some physical activity before you head to work each morning helps you feel better about who you are, which in turn reinforces motivation. We have been talking about motivation and the importance of motivation in whatever it is that you're doing. And why is this so important? Because your motivation to succeed, whether you're working in the corporation and you're looking for management level positions, or if you work for yourself and you are looking for a monetary gain, what are you doing that is going to help you achieve those goals? Bringing your coworkers along for the motivational ride. While you are working on boosting your own motivation, remember that it is important to do your part in building a workplace which prioritizes appreciation. Even if you are not in a managerial role, there are small things you can do each day to motivate your coworkers to feel more valued, which in turn increases your own happiness and motivation. These include try to say something nice to at least one person at your workplace each day. Something as simple as, I thought you did a great job on your presentation. Cost you nothing. It can mean the world to your coworker. Make others feel needed by asking for help. Using physical tokens of gratitude for a job well done are always appreciated. A plate of home-baked cookies, a cup of coffee, or a small gift often leads to an instant motivational boost. Pay attention to the details. If a coworker gets back to you immediately on an issue you asked about, make a point to thank them for such a speedy response. This is something that we don't always think about. Pay attention to details. If a coworker gets back to you immediately on an issue you asked about, make a point to thank them for such a speedy response. Manage your energy, not your time. The last piece of advice is crucial. According to McKinsey & Company study, managing your energy rather than your time will help you stay motivated. Single parents in particular may work a 50-hour week, then come home to their second shift, meal preparation, household tasks, and child care. They must learn to balance their energy that flows, meaning actively managing energy resources. One of the ways of managing your energy is very simple. That's where exercise comes in, because I know when I'm finished working out, I feel very different than when I walk out the door. And while I'm sitting there waiting to be picked up, and I watch people come in to the gym, I will see them dragging. And then after they finish a spin class or finish their yoga class, their energy level has totally changed. It's the opposite. How? By building motivation at work, using the tools above. Those who were so engaged in work activities that they hardly noticed the passage of time were considerably more productive, motivated, and more satisfied with their work. Further, the people who were energized from their work rather than feeling drained. This is something that we truly need to understand, because, and this is something that's often being said, is that when it comes to time management, they always suggest that you get the hardest things, the things that you don't enjoy doing, done first, because once you get the things that you truly love to do, then it's easy for you to motivate yourself inside to succeed. So think of all the things that you've done and also think of the things that you can do that can help you change and learn to motivate yourself to reaching your goals. Have you ever sat down and put together a mission statement of where it is that you are now and where you want to be in the future and what it will take for you to motivate yourself to get to your goals? That is the biggest thing that we have seen in so many of us. That, remember, we've been talking about motivation, whether it's you work for the corporation and you need motivation, or whether you work for yourself and you can motivate yourself, or even have a goal of losing weight, and how important that exercise is to help you improve where you are now to reach where it is that you want to be in the future. There's so many of us, we lack the motivation because we just don't know what to do or how to motivate ourselves. So here's some statistics. Let's go back and reiterate some of the statistics, because what I want to remind you to do is that you can go to my website, and that website is the #1 personalcareercoach.com, and we can sit down with you and we can put together a mission statement of how you are going to motivate yourself to reach your goals, and then we will hold you accountable to follow through with your plan.